I think we are live. Whoa! Hello.
Terrifying.
Welcome to the show. This is probably going to be a shorter one today because I am tired. I don't know if you can maybe like there's bags under my eyes or something. I don't know. I'm really exhausted. This week's caught up to me, but this is it. We've made it to the end of the week. It's Friday. Everybody loves Friday. We had a bunch of people join us recently. So if you're new here, what happened on Wednesday was kind of rare. My normal content is making fun of these people off to the side here. Rebel News, which if you don't know is a Canadian outlet that is pretty right-leaning and, if I dare say so, kind of fascist. So I cover their content and we point out why it's wrong and whatnot. And that's what we're doing here. But on Fridays so I have a podcast too, if any of you didn't know that. Actually, I want to promote one of our most recent episode. Here we go. Let's do our most recent episode. I really enjoyed making it. And its title is a little bit weird, but it is a delightful episode. I'll throw it in the chat. You can also find our podcast on pretty much every app, but this is the website anyways. Drinking Poop is literally 1984. Because, fascists are grossed out by everything, and so for whatever reason they wanted to talk about poop that day. And we covered it, so we got our podcast there. So go check out the podcast too if you want to. It's really fun. But on Fridays, my patrons for the podcast, those who donate at a certain level, get to join me in the chat. So why don't we start with Elron, who's a fine patron. Why don't you say hi to the folks watching?
Hello, folks watching.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
And Vienno?
Hello. I'm still withholding judgment on the new Julian Baker album.
Yeah. I still haven't listened either. I look forward to listening to it because her music is awesome. But and I've liked all the singles that have come out so far, so I'm really looking forward to what it sounds like. Ken, and you say hi as well.
Hello, everybody, and if you take anything away from this podcast, remember, drinking poop, bad. Drinking dinosaur urine, good.
It's all in how you frame things, right?
Also,
Exactly.
Jurassic Park 3.
Jurassic Park 3.
That kid got stuck on the island and collected the T-Rex pee.
Oh, I for some reason do not remember this. I don't know why I don't remember this. The funny thing is, in the podcast episode, I was going to add a segment with at the very end, because we end... Oh, hi, famous source. We normally end the podcast with this clip of Ezra, who is the host of Rebel News, the main person of Rebel News. And at the end of our podcast, we have him singing what he came up with, the British Columbia. So he envisions sort of this Western separatist movement, and it would be like British Columbia, part of British Columbia and Alberta would merge together, and like maybe Saskatchewan into like a super province that he then called Albumbia. And he
That's what that's from?
yeah, and so then he creates a national anthem, which as a joke, which was like Albumbia, Albumbia, how lovely are your wheat fields. And so normally our episodes play out with that tune, but we instead I wanted to. I didn't end up doing it because it sounded a bit weird. But I was gonna have Malcolm from Jurassic Park say, "Oh, that's a big pile of our dinosaur shit," to end our episode on dinosaur pee and drinking poop and all that fun stuff. Just found out I'm banned forever on Twitter. Forever. Jesus Christ! I remember you were banned. I didn't realize it was forever for having violence and hate speech in my profile. You know what? Horses are pretty violent. Horses just devastate people, That said, you don't know how hard the lower classes are working. Took 3 months. Jeez. My account has a profile picture that is of Ezra, the person I cover's likeness. So I don't know. Maybe a strike will come my way eventually. I don't know how these things work, but whatever. What are you gonna do? We're at the whims of these big corporations. I guess nationalize Twitter. Let's. I will say, you know what? Famous horse? This is the real cancel culture. Okay, you've been canceled. And you should have it reinstated. Oh. Speaking of cancel culture. So as I was saying, Friday. So we have our patrons on. Normally we go through some Rebel content. So that's all today. And I've got 2 videos. They're very short. And then we have another Ben Bankas episode, which I know Elron will love. Ben Bankas, failed comedian, Rebel comedian. But we are going to talk about 2 other videos. Again, they're very short. The first is by this woman here, Raheel Raza, who is like new-ish to the Rebel crew. And I've already watched this video. It's going to be pretty bad. It's about her talking about freedom. And then there's another video here with Andrew Says, who's also a relatively new Rebel correspondent as well, talking about whiteness. So that's great. But we will get started on this one. I'll maximize it out. Time to put the CEO of Twitter on a pike. In Minecraft. There. Is that what the cool kids say on this platform? All right. Let's get ready for some freedom.
Free speech?
Oh, and let me know if you can hear it well and all that fun stuff.
Free speech is not free anymore.
What a great bumper. That's all you. Free speech is not free anymore. And I was making a joke with the freedom isn't free. The show title. Freedom isn't free. That's such a... I mean, like, I know... I grew up with a lot of watching South Park and all that. I do realize, looking back on it, a lot of their content was pretty brutal, but it is still a part of my brain in childhood with that stuff. And I did love it. That's from Team America? Was that the name of that movie? They have a song where one of the characters breaks down and starts singing "Freedom Isn't Free."
It sounds familiar. I've only seen that movie once.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so... But we're going to hear Freedom Isn't Free. And so for those who don't know, Raheel Raza, she's not like a huge... excuse me, she's not like a widely known individual. She's someone within the Canadian context, though, who is... I can't quite tell, and like maybe if I dug deeper, I would find out, but I don't think it really matters. But she's kind of like a secular Muslim, or at least self-identifies sort of like that. I think she might actually be a Muslim, but at least as like a more moderate Muslim. But however she wants to classify herself, she ends up kind of being on this like more right-wing kick. It started off with like calling out Islamophobia. That's kind of how, or not calling out Islamophobia, calling out Islamic extremism and like criticizing the claims of Islamophobia. And because of that, she was sort of like ushered into right-wing politics because people were like, here's someone who is a moderate Muslim, however you want to define that, and she's calling out people who are criticizing Muslims by saying that Islamophobia isn't real. We should appreciate her more. And so she got sort of like sucked into right-wing circles that way. Or I should say, sucked in sounds kind of wrong because she probably was already in agreement with them anyways, but it was like, you could see why there would be elements of the conservative movement that would want to capitalize on people like this. Which is like, it's one of those things where they always talk about like the identity politics of the left, right? But there is a certain level of identity politics of the right, which is if you get like a black person who starts speaking out against or speaking out in support of police, right? And saying that really the problem is black culture, the conservative movement just like eats those people up, and they get to grift it all the way to the bank. I don't know if being on Rebel News is is grifting to the bank, but she's on Rebel News nonetheless. So let's see what she has to say.
Over this past decade, we have heard words that are overemphasized as a concentrated effort by the left, the state media, and the czars who want to change not only our way of life, but our way of thinking. 2016, enter Donald Trump and re-enter the word collusion into our vocabulary. There was not a single day when the word collusion was not mentioned at least 100 times.
I too remember the before times in which the word collusion did not exist.
Yeah. I guess like you could make an argument about the over coverage of the connection between Trump and Russia and to what extent that connection existed or to what extent it should have been as focused on as opposed to other issues. Something like that. You can make a criticism there. But she's claiming that like it like saturated the media and you're like had collusion shoved in your face the whole time. But I just noticed that one of the articles that popped up here is about Trump saying no collusion, right? And I do remember part of what's sort of fascinating about the issue of collusion specifically was that word itself kind of came out of nowhere. And it was like embraced by the right about like how everyone else says there's collusion, but there's no collusion. But collusion is not a legal term. If I remember correctly, like there's no like law saying you can't collude with people, right? The issue is conspiracy is the actual crime, which is like, did you actually work with someone to commit a crime? Conspiracy to commit a crime, right? Collusion, there's no law for that. So there's like an element in which I remember when the Mueller report was released, and a lot of people came out saying like, there was no collusion. There's no collusion in the Mueller report. But the issue was not collusion. The issue was conspiracy theory. So of course there's going to be no, like they're not even going to talk about collusion in the Mueller report, right? Because why would they? That's not, it's not a legal issue, right?
Right.
100 times. This brainwashing stayed
Brainwashing.
for years until there was no evidence of collusion. Yet the harm was done, as this word was embedded into the minds of the masses. As a result,
Oh, that TV display, like, as if we were all like manipulated into thinking that like there was collusion. Where I think like the interesting thing is like where it says, as it happened, Mueller report, no evidence of collusion. I mean, again, from what I remember, the Mueller report didn't look into collusion. It was looking into conspiracy. And so there's aspects in which you can say like almost they did like I believe that there was evidence that Paul Manafort was working with that Kislyak person. I can't remember if that's his name. And the idea was they gave him like polling data to Kislyak, hopefully to help the campaign in some way. So there was collusion. It's just whether or not that collusion amounted to conspiracy to commit a crime. But it's interesting that she's saying that like we were brainwashed with this word and it was like thrown in our face, and even though there's no evidence of collusion, we all somehow still think that it's collusion. But like polling after like the Mueller report came out was like low because like everyone pushed this line that there was no evidence of collusion when that's not exactly what the report had in it. You know, and part of that was because you had two competing media narratives, and you had Bill Barr, who was sort of the gatekeeper of how the Mueller report was presented to the public. And what we know what Bill Barr did was Bill Barr removed key words from his summary of what the report was, which downplayed the extent to which Trump actually was trying to undermine the election in some capacity. And we do know that. You could just go read the report. I've read the report because I'm a nerd, you know. That's how I do.
this word was embedded into the minds of the masses. As a result, even a sneeze by Donald Trump was considered a collusion. Fast forward.
What? When was a sneeze by Donald? I want to Google this. 1 second.
He colluded with Kleenex.
Yeah.
His sinuses colluded with airborne particles, causing him to sneeze.
Big, non-generic tissue paper brand Kleenex is who he colluded with.
I can't find anything that make the connection.
Yeah, I think that's just some rebel news motif, similar to like let's use like a visual sort of ransom note by like having a bunch of TVs on screen to say we've been hypnotized. It's like they're doing all these other things.
Yeah, you're being hypnotized by the mainstream media, the czars. Did she call them like? So it's like amusing too because she calls them czars, which is like a throwback to like a Russian system. So the czars and the media are controlling us. Yet there was no collusion with Trump in Russia. That was the control of the media czars who did it to us. And yet she's in the process of telling us this weird tale about a sneeze. As if that somehow was a real story. And I highly doubt it. I've never heard that. That apparently the media claimed that or the media or the elites claimed that a sneeze was evidence of collusion.
To 2021, events of January 6th, when we all heard the word insurrection over and over again. There was no time for a healthy debate because crucifixion was on the agenda until recently. This word too was laid to rest because there was no justification found.
What?
Okay.
What? She's using the Trump acquittal as evidence that there was no insurrection. What does that have to do with each other?
Well, Jody, it's a genius move in that it makes absolutely no sense, so no one can really figure out how to exactly question it.
January 6th didn't even happen this year. We just went straight from the 5th to the 7th.
Jesus. I mean, like,
Sorry,
even...
Vienna, I was just gonna say I didn't hear what you said, Vienna. It was just white noise because you were talking about stuff that didn't happen.
I do, like, the thing is, like, even the word itself, insurrection, like, that, I think that was being placed in the media because, like, I think a large segment of the public latched onto that word. Like, what is happening, I think, like, I guess, like, follow through the logic of what she's saying. She's making it sound like when that event happened, you didn't have things like Twitter. You didn't have, like, the real world dealing with this stuff. Because I saw other words being thrown around the minute it was happening. Like, you had people say treason, the storming, right? But it's like insurrection, or even sedition. Sedition was another word. But insurrection was what people landed on. And that was just one of the many words that you could have landed on. And I think it, like, fits well. But it's like, it almost sounds like in her mind, like when she used the term czar earlier, like there was like some central media hub, a cabal, if you will, that then determines what words the media presents to the public in some sort of like top-down for all the medias. Like, granted, you're going to have editorial decisions made at each individual press. And like in the Chomskyan model, the media model, of manufacturing consent, right? You're going to get, like, because the upper class, the editorial people at each of these newspapers all reside in the same class, you're going to get similar editorial decisions made. But it's not like what Chomsky in their book try to state. It's like it's not like it's a top-down, direct, like, controlled decision. It's just that these things happen given these people's class positions, and then they start making the same points in all these different, like, newspapers. But that being said, it's like, so what? I guess, like, why would they jump on, like, insurrection right away as the word? Like, I feel like that happened way more organically. Personally. I don't know. But then also, like, then this part, right? Donald Trump found not guilty of inciting capital, Chomsky. Listen, whatever you think of Chomsky's politics, I think, he has other work that I think is relevant to this issue, And I don't think that Chomsky is right about everything, but when it comes to manufacturing consent, I think it was an interesting book, worth looking at. And I think it's relevant for this point here. If you think Chomsky is wrong, you tell me why Chomsky's wrong. I'll address that. But here, Donald Trump found not guilty of inciting Capitol riots in impeachment trial. And he wasn't found not guilty. He was acquitted of impeachment, right? The issue was a lot of the people, including Mitch McConnell and the Republicans that voted to acquit him, said they were doing so because of a constitutional manner. So even Mitch McConnell came out afterwards saying, like, Trump really did incite the mob, he's guilty of doing it, he's an evil person, blah, blah, blah. Mitch came out and said that even though he voted to acquit, because he voted to acquit because he doesn't think that they were constitutionally allowed to impeach someone who was no longer the sitting president, even though the Senate already decided on that constitutional matter and suggested that you can impeach a president who has left office. Because there's precedent that the Senate has impeached, I think, commanders in the military or judges and stuff like this after they have already left office. And it was to prevent them from becoming judges again or something, right? So it was to prevent them from getting into office again for doing bad stuff, right? So anyways, Republicans are shitty people, and even then, impeachment is a political trial. It's not like a legal trial. So it's like to suggest that this is the definitive, like, even if it was a legal decision, let me just put it in this context. Even if it was a legal decision, how many people think OJ is guilty? Maybe let's do like a poll here. How many people think OJ is guilty in this chat?
Orange juice is guilty as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point is, orange juice is sad. Most people tend to think that OJ is guilty, even though he was found not guilty in his criminal trial. Because a legal decision is not a fact-based decision necessarily. We might want it to be, but it doesn't always work out that way. Some people who most people would think are very guilty tend to get to go free, and that happens. Now, I would say, like, and that's like I was just going to complicate things with, like, whether we should have prisons in the first place. So I'm just saying, given the system that we do, some people go free in our system even if we know that they committed a crime, or most of us would consent to saying that they had committed the crime. So all of this is just nonsense. It's all fucking nonsense. I don't know what she's going on about.
All this to paint a certain person as evil, no matter what good he did. Certain words have now become triggers to shut up the other. You can't have a reasonable conversation or a healthy discussion about cancel culture, gender fluidity, political correctness, or Antifa. Why can't we talk about this?
Yeah, why can't we?
What I love about that position is, like, you're right here. Tell us, oh wise one. Raheel, tell me about Antifa right now. Or I would love, let's have a reasonable conversation about gender fluidity right now, Raheel. Let's do it. But instead, you're just like, they're not letting us talk about it. Why can't, like, who is not talking about cancel culture right now? Pretty much you can't go online without that being, like, the main fucking topic of conversation right now.
It's not even that they, I think, actually think they're being like silenced. It's that they expect to always be greeted by smiles and like cheers and applause anytime that they say anything and anytime they open their mouths. And that's not happening. They're getting a little bit of pushback. So it's like, oh no, it's scary.
I think that's actually why she used the word reasonable, because like what they can like fall back on is as soon as like, so if she comes out and says like, I think gender fluidity is full of shit, and then you would go, fuck you, or like any of us, I would say fuck you to that, and then she would be like, why are you being emotional, why can't you be reasonable, right? And like shut down the conversation that way. Like that's it's a way of like, they have their own techniques of deflating the conversation to not deal with the fact that they're the ones who are being shitty people and who happen to be wrong about these things too.
They mistake what was I going to say? They mistake I totally lost my train of thought there. They mistake.
You're canceled.
Really looking forward to it.
You're canceled.
Sorry about that. I was canceled, but I was in the middle of saying what I was going to say. No, they mistake criticism for censorship is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, like, even, like, the cancel thing, because, like, most of, like, the cancel culture stuff boils down to the fact of, like, why can't people in public state that they think there's a Jewish conspiracy? And then it's like, I don't know, because there's problems that derive from that. So even though when you had someone like, I can't remember her name, the Mandalorian lady, MMA fighter, Gina Carano, right? And everyone was talking about, oh, Gina, she, like, what she said really anti-Semitic? And, and like, part of it is like, I almost don't think it matters whether it was anti-Semitic or not anti-Semitic. Because it's like, at the end of the day, it's about, like, who do you want to associate with? And if someone is saying something vaguely anti-Semitic, or at least something that's, like, on the periphery of anti-Semitism, you might, like, you know, not want to associate with them. And then there's also the factor of, like, I don't know, I don't really care about this, mostly because, like, I don't give a shit about this happening to rich people. You know? Given the fact that she was able to find more work, like, it's not like her life has been utterly... Because that's the other way they take it, right? Like, their lives are being utterly destroyed. Yeah, fuck off. Until we never hear about Mel Gibson ever again, this idea that cancel culture destroys lives is just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Another word that is being flaunted relentlessly is Islamophobia.
Relentlessly.
Islamophobia is a term that was created after 9/11 by the Islamists to freeze conversation, debate, and discussion, or to ask relevant questions about the subversive agenda of the Islamists and to make one community look like the victims. Appearing in some newspaper.
So, I mean, that's bullshit. I do want to pause before we get into the content of what she just said there. The playing of September 11th, like, felt kind of tasteless to me in that moment. Like, there was just something about it where it was like,
Yeah,
did we
think
need
so?
to see that? Did we need to see that? I don't know. It just, it struck me as very weird. You were going to say something, Ron, sorry.
No, just like you think maybe. No, I just agree. Sorry, I'm like 2 drinks in at this point. I've been just chugging every time she said something I disagree with.
That's the worst or best drinking game you can play.
The other thing, like, about the Islamophobia thing, like, I've never... The funny thing, because there was... I'm trying to, like, go back into my own past when I was in my early 20s and more of an edgy atheist. And I might have said something adjacent to this, right? And part of that was, like, you know, at the time, there was people who were doing certain things, like, there was, like, the Draw Muhammad thing in, like, in solidarity with the people who were attacked by Islamic extremists for drawing, say, the Prophet Muhammad and stuff like this. And so there was these things, but then... And then people started calling the people who were doing these activities Islamophobic. And I would have reacted back then as kind of like, well, no, they're not. They're just engaging in free speech or something like this. Because I hadn't had this all, like, fucking fleshed out at the time. But, like, looking back on it, like, that shit was Islamophobic in a large way. Because it's like, I don't know, there's just, like, an element in which, yes, okay, do what you want to do in drawing your thing, and you shouldn't be, like, have your life threatened because of it, right? But you can also not be a dick, you know? And it's like, it came at the expense of everyone else, and it also demonized Muslims generally rather than getting at the specific issue. Because it was never made about the specific issue. It was always like, Muslims are bad. And of course, like, at the time, I didn't think about it that way. But then, like, you started noticing that, like, even though I was having this more nuanced discussion, you had people like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, which were just starting to come out of, like, painting Muslim people generally as, like, evil. And that's why, like, you had terms like Islamophobia. So for her to come out here to just be like, the term is only used to stifle speech. It's like, no, it's used to point out that, like, you're generalizing about a group of people. And that's wrong, you know?
Yep. No, I agree with all of that.
I don't know. I think they get... I don't know what it is. It's like they find that these words, like, silent people. But the thing is, it's like nothing... Like, if I were to call someone Islamophobic, it doesn't silence them. It just labels... I think what it does is it does make them uncomfortable for me, like, sort of, like, shining a light on who they really are, rather than, like... You know, like, because if they weren't Islamophobic, they could point out to and have it, like, a disagreement. But instead it boils down to, of, like, I should be, like, completely rude and offensive to Muslim people, and you should just shut up and let me do it. Which is not how this works, you know?
For them, I think it runs too much of a risk of introspection. Like, it runs the risk of them having to think about their own lives and actions and realizing that maybe they aren't, like, these wonderful people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's something I've thought about a bunch, and you put it better than I ever could. Because, yeah, a lot of these people do have trouble looking at themselves in a mirror with a lot of this stuff.
Yup. All right, let's move on and see where this goes.
Look like the victims. Appearing in some newspapers was the news that just this month, Danish and German authorities said that they had foiled a possible terror attack after a series of arrests in the two countries. However, if you were to ask relevant questions, you would immediately be labeled an Islamophobe.
What? Like, I want to, like... My initial thought would be that I'd be worried about some kind of entrapment plot, like, right now, because that's something that has happened quite frequently, is that whenever there's these large, like, roundups, you'll find that it was, like, you had... I mean, this is in the European context, but in the American context, you'll find that, or in the Canadian context, you'll find out that the RCMP or the FBI were... suggesting things to them, and then things snowball and so forth, right? And then it's like the question of, like, whether or not these people would have engaged in the action that you eventually arrest them prior to them committing, whether they would have even have gotten that far if it was not for the RCMP or FBI involvement. And so I'd be curious if that had something to do in this particular case. But I also, like, I don't know, like, that many people that just deny outright that there are, like, Islamic groups that have violent, I guess, like, that want to commit violent actions in the name of their own, like, sort of, like, their version of their religion. Like, I don't know, like... Of course there is. Like, just like there's violent Catholics and like, there's fundamentalists in almost every religious sect, except maybe Jainism. I don't know. I'm still waiting for a radical Jainist. Will be pretty awesome. So against the murdering of bugs that you kill humans to save them or something. Radical Jainist. I don't know. But yeah, like I don't know that. I don't know that anyone would deny that or think that like we can't have this discussion because there are some Muslims that commit some acts of violence. You know.
In Canada, our parliament has introduced Motion 103, which stifles questions about Islam and Muslims, which is directly against free speech. Free speech? Free speech is not free anymore. It comes at a very heavy price, and I'm already paying that
Freedom
price with a
isn't
lawsuit
free.
on my head. Unless we make a concentrated
I want to know what
effort
lawsuit's coming
to
against her.
stop all this madness now, these word games will completely destroy our way of life.
What happened with M103? Like, I can't remember what exactly that legislated. Was it just adding Islamophobia to, like, a list of things that won't be allowed?
I
can't
think
remember.
so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it like added it to
Like,
like recognized forms of discrimination.
Yeah, discrimination based upon religion, I guess.
Motion 103, also known as M103, was a non-binding motion. So it was non-binding. Okay. In the 42nd Canadian Parliament, stating that the members of the House of Commons called on the Government of Canada to condemn Islamophobia in Canada. That was it. So that it was just to go, Islamophobia is bad. Congratulations. It also called on the Standing Committee. It also called on the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage to carry out a study on how racism and religious discrimination can be reduced and collect data on hate crimes. So that's it. That is literally it. All it did was to say, Islamophobia is bad. Here's a committee that we're setting up to study racism. My freedom of speech has been gravely damaged by this injustice. Freedom isn't free. Like, what? I don't know how to take this. Jesus Christ. Like, I want to know, like, what she thinks, like, how this is stifling her speech. Raheel Raza lawsuit. Let's see what we got here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything. Ms. Raheel Raza. Canadian courts in a lawsuit file. Let's see if I control F it and find lawsuit. Nope, that doesn't look like it's directed at her, so that's not helpful. I don't know, oh, this might do it. Because it says she's named as a defendant, so. Court qualified terrorist expert Tom Quiggin and 6 other persons, entities, including have been named as the defendants in a defamation suit leveled by the charitable organization Islamic Relief of Canada. The risk faced by the defendants is in the order of millions of dollars as IRC seeks compensation for damages to its good name and ongoing financial prospects. All this due to an RCMP complaint submitted by Tom Quiggin. This complaint alleges that terrorist organizations abroad are being funded by taxpayer dollars funneled through several Government of Canada agencies and personalities and IRC. Okay. Wonder if there's the document here. Oh, look at that. Is it just going to be the cover letter, or are we going to get the whole lawsuit here? Because I'm curious what they said and whether there's evidence. No, that's Thomas Quiggin. Let's find Raheel. Where are you, Raheel? Let's see if I can control F this document. Oh, 41 instances. Okay, Okay, Raheel Raza is the president of the Council, and author of the book, The Jihad. Their Jihad, not my Jihad. Ms. Raza is an award-winning journalist. Okay, Ms. Raza is the recipient of this, yeah. Among the many appearances and speaking engagements, I don't need to know this. Ms. Raza is the first Muslim woman. Okay, yeah. Oh, so this is just to distinguish who she is. Okay, that's not very helpful. Does it just go on?
So just like quick Googling of Islamophobia and like how long that word has been around. It was talked about in English as of 1923, but it was discussing the French word Islamophobie. I don't know how to fucking say French anymore.
Yeah. That's right.
In 1910 to describe a prejudice against Islam that is widespread among the peoples of Western and Christian civilization.
Say that last part again? Sorry, I was reading this.
So it was talked about as a prejudice against Islam that is widespread among the peoples of Western and Christian civilization in 1923.
Sounds right.
They didn't really adopt, like English as a language, didn't really adopt Islamophobia until 1976, though. So even then, well, pre 9/11.
I mean, the term really blew up after 9/11 because I think, well, at least given how stark that event was in the 24-hour news cycle mindset and the fallout that happened because of this. I think it really did. There was a segment, especially between 2001 till today, too. I still think we're facing the ramifications of it. I feel like there's like evidence. I remember looking at data to this effect, showing that prejudice and attacks against Muslim people like increased after September 11th, and continues sort of like a steady trend to today. It's probably like tapered off a bit, but not completely.
It has not tapered off, no.
It has not tapered off.
There have been.
I feel there was a tapering off, and probably Trump brought it up again. But from what I remember, I could be wrong, but you can point to the stats on that in a second. I'm just gonna read, unless you got something quick. I wanted to read what it says here about what she wrote. But
yeah, the thing for Motion 103 to like condemn Islamophobia, was like the argument in favor of it was that Stats Canada data showed that hate crimes against Muslims more than doubled in the 3-year period between 2013 and 16. And then also there's been like 5 Islamophobic attacks in Edmonton in the last like 10 weeks.
yeah.
Just 2 quick little.
Yup. No, it's going to be ongoing. Why can't we just get rid of all the racism? live in the beautiful, beautiful world of my dreams. So what we got here, the Raza article. On October 17, 2018, the defendant, Ms. Raza, published an article entitled When NGOs Go Rogue. The Raza article. The article discusses Ms. Raza's opinion of what happens when the specific mission of an NGO is in direct conflict with and against the values and security of the countries that people live in. In the Raza article, Ms. Raza refers to Quiggin Report and the assertion and opinions contained within the Quiggin Report about the concern that government donations through NGOs could eventually be channeled towards extremism and terrorism. In the Raza article, Ms. Raza identifies how the various assertions in the Quiggin Report, including the fact that IR worldwide was blacklisted as a terrorism funding risk by major international banks and charity monitors, and the fact that it has been repeatedly identified as fundraising for the Muslim Brotherhood. In the Raza article, Ms. Raza reiterates Mr. Quiggin's opinions and concerns about the Government of Canada providing funding to the organization who are providing further funding to groups that may fund extremism and terrorism. So my guess is they're finding that they think that these statements in this Quiggins report is not true. Yeah. So they're arguing that even though it's factually incorrect, so this is like a statement of defense, I guess. Yeah, okay, it's the statement of defense. So this is them responding to the fact that they got this lawsuit, which is probably arguing that they've defamed. And their statement of defense is that even though if it's not true, it was made in good faith. So, whatever. She made this claim about an Islamic organization that apparently receives taxpayer money. That's probably not true. Might be, like, I haven't looked into it, so like I'll leave the open I'll leave it open as to whether it's true or not, but at the same time, given the track record of Rebel News and the people that they associate with, I'll just let that hang there for how much credence I would give to their claims. All right. So that was that. Now let's learn about Whiteness from Andrew Says. So this is Andrew Says. We've covered him once before. He's also like a somewhat newish Rebel reporter. He does his own show now where he like interviews people. So the last and only time we covered Andrew was him interviewing Dave Rubin, which was boring as hell. But this is a short video, 4 minutes, about why Whiteness leaked college diversity training claims white people dominant over other races. I have not seen it. It's 4 minutes long. We'll have fun.
Just a quick note before we start. The hoodie's kind of cool, though.
That is such a bulky hoodie, though. That's like a really bulky hoodie.
If it wasn't stylized in the Rebel, Rebel's actual logo, and it just said Rebel, I would be a little cool. It would be a little cooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's too much of an association with Ezra Levant for me to fully appreciate this hoodie.
Just put Yosemite Sam on it.
They did.
You can just associate it.
I will say they did drop the word news, so that's good. Because they know they're not news now, so we gotta remove that.
A whistleblower from an Ontario college has come forward to expose some crazy diversity training mandatory for all full-time employees.
Here we go.
A former faculty member at Sheridan College emailed us this training from late 20.
All right, so where's Sheridan College again?
That's where I went to school, Jody. There's
oh, hell.
We're gonna knowledge. Let's go.
So let's see. There's
the Trafalgar campus in Oakville, and there is another campus which is not the one I went to in Brampton. I was at the Oakville campus.
Now it's time to dig in deep to your alma mater.
Yeah.
Here we go. Watch the video below for an introduction to racism. A PowerPoint of the video is available for download. The video length, watching the video, use slides, next button to continue. Okay. Why whiteness? White privilege is a result of colonialism and white supremacy. All right. White supremacy captures the all-encompassing centrality and assumed superiority of people defines and perceived as white. That's a typo. Shouldn't it be defined? Anyways. And the practices based upon that assumption. It establishes whiteness as the norm and everything else as a deviation from the norm. And then it cites Robin DiAngelo, because of course this is Robin DiAngelo. But I don't think there's much objectionable in that. Is there anything objectionable in that?
Not that I picked up on, but I'm a dummy.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems pretty. I only see true statements. Yeah, no, I kind of only see true statements. I mean, we're probably going to get it. My guess, if I were to take a stab at it, where we're going to go with this is the same shit we got with the discourse around the Coca-Cola statement. So that was, I get, it's so funny because this is such like a Canadian-derived story. Like, there was the big Coca-Cola gave a Robin DiAngelo like thing, and slides leaked. I will say it was Karen Brashenko. remember her name.
Elrond.
Yeah, Elrond did a video on it. Check out Elrond. Post it in the chat again. Get them subs. Get them likes. But she apparently somehow got a hold of these documents from Coca-Cola and leaked them on the internet, and the typical people lost their mind. So this is the Canadian version of that story, where I guess because that happened in America, where Carlin leaked the Coca-Cola stuff, you now have somebody leaking similar stuff from. So the professor the whistleblower that leaked this to them probably saw the hype that was created by the Coke story and was like, I can piggyback off of that. We'll do it all on our own.
I'm curious if it's one of my profs. I don't know if it was.
We'll see if he names the professor.
2020, which all full-time staff were forced to review, along with a quiz afterwards.
Forced to review? To see whether the material was good before they sent it out? I'm not sure, that's a weird way to phrase it.
No, because he said that all employees had
Make
to
sure,
go through this training.
Well, that's what he said at the beginning. But I'm wondering if now he's saying these materials were reviewed by the professor prior to the state of it going to everyone, or I don't know.
Well, he mentions a quiz at the end, so I imagine that it goes out and they have to answer questions based on what they watched.
Afterwards, to make sure, your privilege is known, of course. Now, this first slide tells you what type of privilege you have over others for basically every situation. Are you a man? Well, you oppress women. White people, you oppress everyone, obviously. Heterosexuals, well, you clearly oppress lesbian, gays, and even pansexuals. Who knew? Able-bodied oppress the disabled, and even adults oppress children and elders. I thought seniors were adults too, but who am I to say? And of course, Christians oppress all other religions, including, quote, non-Christian religious people. Just in case we missed something on that list, we throw that in there.
That is not at all what that chart is saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait that chart. Wait, hang on. No one...
God, this is so stupid. So, okay, type of oppression. And then it lists the type of oppression.
Yeah.
Interesting, Christianism. I haven't heard that. But okay. Type of oppression, and then it's what is the dominant privileged group? And then who are the oppressed marginalized groups, and what kind of category it is. Okay, I want to listen to his explanation again.
And just before you hit play again, Jody, sorry, I just wanted to say that we originally saw Andrew Says in that segment with Dave Rubin, and I would like to just say that he holds the singular distinction of making Dave Rubin actually look smart.
No, I don't.
I mean, I'm interested in the rest of this video quite a bit.
Listen, I think it's because Dave Rubin is still in a coma after all those high-level ideas, right?
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, let's see how he reads this again, because he's saying this category.
Are you a man?
Okay.
Well, you oppress women. White people, you oppress everyone, obviously.
Okay.
Heterosexuals, well, you clearly oppress lesbian, gays, and even pansexuals. Who knew? Able-bodied oppress the disabled, and even adults oppress children and elders. I thought seniors were adults too, but who am I to say? And of course, Christians oppress all other religions, including, quote, non-Christian religious people. Just in case we missed something on that list, we throw that in there.
So what it's actually just saying is that there is this dominant privileged group, and then these are people who tend to be oppressed, I guess, within the society.
Yeah, it's not saying if you are this, if you are a man, you automatically oppress every woman you come across or something like that.
Yes, because he's making it some sort of
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just saying he makes it seem like some sort of there's a necessary tide, because if you have man in the dominant group here, then there's they're necessarily doing an oppression. But this is just saying that men is the dominant group, and the oppressed group is women, right?
Doing an oppression. I like that. doing a heck of oppression on women right now.
Wow.
Well, because if you frame it in terms of like doing an oppression, that means it's almost like a necessary relationship.
Stop saying that. Stop saying doing an oppression.
Well, that's how he frames it, though. That
I know,
men
but
are
just, like,
oppressive.
It sounds so memey to put it that way. Doing an oppression.
Listen,
Someone needs to come up with a Dodge or Doge or Doggy. I never know how you pronounce it. Me.
I had
Just doing them. What?
I had to do it because he did it. It's not my fault. You were going to say something prior to that, Elron, if you wanted to point out how
No, I
silly
was
this
going
is.
to agree with the major point you were making. Is like it seems like these people don't really understand what systems are and need to reduce everything down to like individuals, which I don't fully understand. Like just because we're talking about how these emergent groups interact with one another doesn't mean we're saying you in particular are doing this automatically by your existence. I don't know. I thought it was pretty simple and straightforward, but I'm not deliberately out here to misrepresent what people are talking about. So here you go.
And it does
I mean,
say
they are conservatives, so chances are they are the individuals
Yeah.
doing that oppressing. So this might be like a little bit of, that whole
show and tell.
they don't want to look in the mirror too close.
Or they're like, yeah, I remember that time I oppressed. But it does, getting back to Elron's point, it does say group right at the top there. Group and groups, highlighting a point there.
Lest we throw that in there. Sheridan College, a real school in Canada.
As opposed to all those fake schools in Canada. I love when people just say real. I just had to highlight that. It's like when you go to a juice store or whatever, and they're like, made with real juice. And I'm always just like, fake juice? Made with transcendental juice. That transcends the bounds of the material reality.
They also want you to change the systems of oppression you're involved with, which is sort of them, isn't it? And advocate for more diversity. Based on these other slides, I'm guessing they don't mean intellectual diversity, but at least they say notice who isn't listened to. Even if it does have some spelling mistakes in here, we'll ignore that. The problem is...
Wait, I gotta listen to that again. I was too transfixed in the fact I was like, did they put an Ayn Rand video on this, on this slide? And I think it was just the screen cap had recommended videos for Ayn Rand, which, if anything, tells me a little bit about the person who captured this stuff. If they had Ayn Rand in their recommended player. Just saying. I mean, it could be indicative that it's like me, because I watch garbage like this, but...
diversity. Based on these other slides, I'm guessing they don't mean intellectual diversity, but at least they say notice who isn't listened to. Even if it does have some spelling mistakes in here, we'll ignore that.
Practice anti-oppression. Believe those who share experiences of oppression. Invest in learning more about their experience and changing the systems of oppression that have contributed to their oppression. Notice who is and isn't included at decision-making tables, in committee rooms, in workplaces, and in classrooms, and advocate for more diversity in these spaces. I do want to say, like, this second point here, because he made a joke about, doesn't that mean they have to change themselves? And, like, he almost says that like it got you, but it's like, yeah, of course it does. Like, I mean, like, I want them to change themselves, so it's like, granted, I think there's going to be resistance to it, but there's also, like, a difference between... what's being top-down advocated and what's like making it through like the college's senate or whatever governing body they have in place. Like these things just colleges aren't the equivalent of like a company, right? So it's not like even if the president of the college probably doesn't want to change, he or she probably doesn't have direct control. He, she, or them probably does not have direct control over this like final decisions like this in certain areas, right? Unlike Coca-Cola, which probably is a little bit more hierarchical. And then lastly, notice whose voices are listened to and which are silenced, or dismissed, and help amplify their voices. The funny thing is, like, he's quibbling. He's like, so far what we've gotten, and we're like a minute and 20 seconds like into this. So far it's just like, hey, look at that. Look at it. Look at that. Like, that's all he's doing. But it's like, that doesn't tell me why I should be upset with this.
You should be upset at its very existence, Jody. We shouldn't even need to go into detail.
Like, I don't know, believe those who share experiences of oppression. Yeah, like, listen to people.
Right, exactly.
Invest in learning more about their experience and changing the systems of oppression that have contributed to their oppression. Yeah, go out there and learn things about the world, you know? Notice who is and isn't included at decision-making tables. Yeah, like, if the whole room is filled with white men, maybe that's not a good thing. What's wrong with diversity? Like, this is, I just fucking hate these people.
Sorry, what does this say in the bottom left about Ayn Rand?
It says the Mike Wallace interview with Ayn Rand. And the video is from the Ayn Rand Institute, which my guess is they're getting recommends from the Ayn Rand Institute, given whoever this person is.
Oh, okay. I thought this was part of the slides, and I was like,
So-
what the fuck is going on?
That's why I was initially distracted, but it says more videos. So I'm feeling like this is like, because like this is YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. So this is in the recommended videos. Because it's covering up the little Sheraton logo in the corner there.
Oh.
But then if it's... Unless... I'm curious. I can't remember what like YouTube looks like. If it's in the thing, like why would this be in the thing? I mean, there is an X there, so I doubt it's in the actual slide.
Why was it shared as a YouTube video?
My guess is like it's a PowerPoint presentation. Right? So this whole thing, they're like watching a PowerPoint presentation on YouTube apparently. So I wonder if this is on Sheridan's website.
The headers and everything look like Sheridan stuff, so I don't know.
I'm just typing in Google Sheraton College and seeing if we get a YouTube video about like anti-racism or something like that. Did just a quick look. I mean, you get things like Sheraton project management information or stuff like this. So I wonder, like, it could be something they were putting on YouTube, but they could have made it like unlisted or only available for profs or on their thing. I don't know. But whoever it was is getting recommended Ayn Rand. They're also getting recommended. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Is this? I don't know. We'll see.
The problem isn't addressing oppression or hearing marginalized voices. It's that it's specific to white people only. Quote, whiteness is the norm and everything else is a deviation from that. Now what's weird is they...
But she's...
Well, that's a fucking selective-ass reading of the quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, like, that. The reason why is because they're talking about white supremacy here.
Right. But don't look too hard at the header of the column.
Like, that's... Oh, my God, Andrew, why? Let's see what he said there again.
Voices. It's that it's specific to white people only. Quote, whiteness is the norm and everything else is a deviation from that.
Yeah, in
Now,
white
what's weird is
supremacy.
They really offload a lot of their work here. Here's one of the videos they suggest from Slate that they insist you watched called What Dark-Skinned People Will Never Tell You.
From what I've seen growing up, dark skin equates to being poor, dirty, ratchet.
They tend to be the bad guys in Tyler Perry movies. Straight from the border.
That doesn't even make any sense. I'm not deemed as beautiful, therefore I am not beautiful. And those two are not really mutually exclusive.
Again, a lot of this is actually true in the Caribbean or in East Asia. Being darker was historically shown that you're poor.
What? What?
Wait, so he's saying... I think he's making the argument of, like, there was racism in other cultures, so therefore it can't be specifically white people are racist. I think that's the argument he's making here. Because that really sounded like he was saying that people over there are actually poor. That's what it sounded like he said. But I'm gonna just walk it back a bit. I think that's charitability. I think this is hopefully the argument he's making.
A lot of this is actually true in the Caribbean or in East Asia. Being darker was historically shown that you're poor. In fact, they have Haitian, Dominican, and Korean people in this saying that in the actual video. But the people at Sheridan College say that's an effect of white supremacy.
That's not, like, you showed us 2 or 3 slides. One was like identifying white supremacy. And also, if we're talking about systems... Sorry, you finish, Vito.
Or perhaps it is a discussion about race and oppression in a particular historical and geographical context. And we are not talking about
racism generally?
All of it. You're not going to cover the whole world and all of its various forms of oppression in your Sheridan College HR mandated slides.
No, Sheridan College in Toronto needs to know about oppression or what's happening institutionally in other countries that will affect the internal dynamics of their company.
Speaking on behalf of my alma mater, it's actually in Oakville, Jody, not Toronto. Let's make sure I get it right.
Listen, eventually Toronto will just take it over all of Southern Ontario.
Good point taken, and absolutely true, but I'm going to differentiate it from Toronto as of right now.
Like, there almost is no dividing line. Like, you go, it's like, sorry, I've got something in my throat. I might have to go get a drink. It's like Toronto, Mississauga. Oakville's next to Mississauga, right?
It's in between. It is north of Burlington and southwest of, I think Mississauga is the next borough, if you will, over.
Hold the fort for a second. I gotta go grab some water.
So, how's everybody doing?
You know, if he's gone for 15 minutes, we're legally allowed to leave.
Oh, I did not know that. That's good. That's good knowledge to have. But yeah, this guy is a special kind of host. His delivery is much better when he actually has something to read. Because the Dave Rubin clip was not so hot.
You can tell he's nervous the whole time he's presenting because he's just kind of like clutching and playing with his fingers and thumbs.
Yeah, body language definitely not, as they would say, alpha. That's the bulky hoodie makes him look a little bit more down than he may be, but I'm not one to body shame.
We're body shaming now? I'm gone for 2 seconds and you're body shaming.
I'm sorry. I got to bring it down to that level at all times.
Don't body shame. That's not appropriate.
I don't know what that was. It was like it's almost like I had something stuck in my throat, but I haven't been eating anything. It's like every time I talked, I felt like I had to cough. All right.
Did you guys even watch the video? Just click next to go to the next video, it says. This isn't just weird racist material, it's lazy racist material. Now, the whistleblower that contacted us says this training began after Dr. Jane Ngobia, the VP of Inclusive Communities and former diversity officer, joined the faculty. Now, one of the doctors
Right, let's read. When I joined...
Whistleblower.
Yeah. I mean, but none of this is actual whistleblowing stuff, because whatever. A message from Dr. Jane Ngobia, VP of Inclusive Communities. When I joined Sheridan in January 2019, I was hired as Senior Advisor to the President and Vice Chancellor, following broad community consultation to develop Sheridan's strategic plan, the primacy of equity, diversity, inclusion. Yeah. All right. I mean, it's the Office of Inclusive Communities. No, we should hire her to do something that is against what the office actually states. I don't know what he wants. What does he want?
Inclusive Communities and former diversity officer joined the faculty. Now, one of the doctor's contributions is celebrating Transgender Remembrance Day. In a letter, she states, transphobia may include intentional disbelief or disregard of a person's pronouns or gender identity, otherwise known as not pretending. I'm sorry, but discriminate...
What? I feel like the thing he's saying is
He was
feel.
just being transphobic. That was it.
Yeah, probably. But the things he's saying, for some reason, it goes by a little too fast for him. For some reason, it's like.
Now, one of the doctor's contributions is celebrating Transgender Remembrance Day.
Okay,
In
yeah.
a letter, she states, transphobia may include intentional
Unfortunately, trans people continue to face higher rates of discrimination, violence, and harassment. The form of oppression called transphobia may be conveyed by irrational fears or hatred of trans people that may result in disparaging language, victimization, or condemnation, intentional disbelief or disregard of a person's pronouns or gender identity. Of course, that's the one he fucking highlights, right? Systemic discrimination based on gender identity or gender expression or neglect that can create barriers for trans persons' ability to access community services and resources. Acts of violence in all of its forms. Yeah.
belief or disregard of a person's pronouns or gender identity, otherwise known as not pretending.
Like, of course he would say that. Of course he would fucking say that. I mean, like, again, like, you would have, like, there's just so many fucking layers of transphobia there that it's so easy, almost easy to unpack, but at the same time just, like, frustrating to have to constantly unpack it for these people, you know? Because it's like, it's not, gender is a social category. It's partly determined by how we interact with the world. There's nothing inherent about wearing, say, a skirt tied to womanness. There's nothing inherent there. The relationship is not inherent. Other societies have had, for example, more masculine types be who wear skirts or whatever. These kind of like societal norms shift and change. So, yes, gender identity is quite a fluid concept. It changes, and it's okay for people to identify for whatever gender they feel fucking comfortable with. It's not pretend, you fucking idiot. I hate that it has to come down to that. I usually don't use words like idiot, but you're an idiot, Andrew. And you're a bigot.
I like how that's the hard limit. I don't want to call these idiots, but you know you're bringing it. No, he's a fucking dumbass. Let's just be real. This is some fucking dumbassery.
It's just like, I try to refrain just in terms of like, I don't know, I don't want to come out constantly just throwing that around or getting used to it. You know, I want to save it for moments like this. Or just like, you're an idiot. You should not be accepted in polite society, community. You are banished. You are hereby banished from the land.
On. Get out of here. We don't want you anymore.
Andrew says, "Be gone." Wait, no, that's him. Why would he?
Pretending. I'm sorry, but discriminating against people is not what a phobia is. If I'm claustrophobic...
Jesus Christ, what are you, 3 years old?
Now, Ngobia was...
What was that about closets? Oh, home.
Ngobia was also the
Claustrophobia.
VP for human... Closets.
Oh.
Now, Ngobia was also the VP...
Claustrophobia? But that's... What an idiot. Jesus Christ.
I can't believe we give these people the benefit. You were being, what was it? You were giving the charity. You were extending the principle of charity to this one. Why?
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Like,
Keep that in mind in the future.
you know what? We've had this conversation, I feel, in private. I don't know if we've ever had it here, but it's like there's something about like conservatives that are like, new words bad. I don't like new words. So it's like phobia word mean phobia, but use word here not phobia. It's like, I don't know what happened.
New words bad. No new words. No new words. New words bad.
It's like, you
New
know,
word? No.
we used to say awesome when it was like awe, like you were so filled with awe, it was a religious thing. You were filled with awe. And now it's like when I do a kickflip off of a rip, you're like, awesome! You know, words that meant one thing at one point can mean something else in another context over time as language develops, you know. The words in the dictionary are not written by some, like, tome on high, such that, like, phobia means this, you know. It changes. Get used to it. You know, there's new words that entered our vocabulary fairly recently, like smartphone. It's a new word. The only reason that they don't care about like those words being created is because those words have absolutely nothing to do with the bigotry that they want to perpetuate. It's only words having to do with race, gender, sex, all that they get all up in arms with when we create new vocabulary for these categories, because those are the categories that they want to continue to oppress people. Because in that earlier chart that he showed, he's the man, you know? He is in some sense a great example of the group identity distilled in one individual. You know, it was about group identity and not individuals, but he is a fair representative of what that group category represented.
Closets? Now, Ngozi was also the VP for Human Rights and Equity at the University of Guelph when this viral video surfaced of students confronting faculty members in 2015, where the students made some very, very compelling arguments.
Training! The RA has no training! The RA is not trained to deal with black students! The RAs are fucking racist! The system
They only do RA because of the money!
You understand that this establishment is rooted in anti-black racism! So what the fuck is a white RA gonna do?
Yeah, we go to white RAs, we go to white administrations, and they can relate to the white students. Oh, they're different. It's new for them. Black students have no representation. We have no support here.
You know how it feels to go make a complaint and be told it's not that big of a deal? Get over it.
Oh, they didn't mean it.
Unless you didn't, unless somebody didn't kill you because of your race, it's okay.
Looks like she did a great job there too.
Like, it's so fucking lazy.
What was wrong?
Like, if you're gonna do one, like, the one thing you do there is to go through, like, again, it's so stupid. This should take me like 2 seconds to do, but I'm so like flabbergasted because it's like, look, when I do content like this, I get the content and then I come up with reasons and justifications for why I disagree or agree with something. He just plays the clip and then goes, that's like all he does. Like, you don't, like, you're not going to, like, wrestle or struggle with the content that you just said. Like what Vieto said. What was said in that video that was wrong? It's like he just saw, like, angry black women and then went from that to be like, well, ain't that silly?
He's a poet laureate. In fuck, man, what a fucking guy.
Like, I want the exact response out of this clown face.
Okay. Looks like she did a great job there too.
Like, looks like she did a great job. She did do a great job, actually.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. The thing is, like, this guy's, like, making money. They get all these, like, fucking white people donating to them and all for this bullshit. Never addressing anything because they don't need to. Like, that's the thing that frustrates the hell out of me. They could just go up and just phone this thing fucking in, not have to spend an ounce of trying to create a narrative. They just play a video and go, make a sarcastic, flippant comment. The end. The end. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Speaking of phoning it in. Now, again, this is Ben Bankas. We'll watch it all in one hit. And then we're going to sign off a little early because I am tired as hell. It's also the weekend. We all need to relax. So Ben Bankas, this clip is called A Day in the Life of a CBC Employee. I have not watched it. What we know about Ben Bankas is often it's supposed to be funny. It isn't. And there'll be like sprinkles of racism and other shit in there. So like, who knows? We'll roll the dice, see what it is. I remember looking at the thumbnail. I think there's a corner gas reference. So I just want to state, for those who are not Canadian watching me right now, the CBC is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It's our publicly funded television network. Kind of like your PBS. Kind of. And we have some like programming that was specifically curated by the CBC. So you get a program like Corner Gas, which was kind of like a sitcom in Saskatchewan and stuff like this. So there might be some references that are, I mean, like Schitt's Creek is one I think that's now gone like more like globally popular. That came from the CBC, I believe. Is that correct? Can I have a fact check, Vienna?
I think it did. I'm not 100% sure though.
I'm just gonna search this one up because why not? Take 2 seconds. Da-da-da-da. Yes, it's from CBC television. So yeah, so that's like, every once in a while they might hit like one thing that actually makes it to a broader audience. But so there might be some inside jokes here for the Canadian. Well, there might be some inside statements. I don't want to prejudge that they're jokes because so far our hit ratio is fairly low with Ben Bankas about what constitutes a joke in his bits, even though they're supposed to be comedic. So here it goes. Elron, I wish you luck. Don't have a heart attack. And
Let's do it.
Here we go.
I work for CBC. I don't have a name because they don't let me have a name. They used to call me Associated Press around the office, but I haven't been there in over a year, so I don't know what they call me now. Hey guys, can you hear me? I'm just... Oh. Sorry, I just muted you. Is COVID making kids suicidal, or is it the parents' fault? I'm not sure if they pay me, but they do give me free CBC Gem where I watch Baroness von Sketch on repeat while I contemplate transitioning into a female so my articles get pushed more by the state. This is my favorite Little Mosque on the Prairie episode where they blow up corner gas. Crossover episode, only on CBC Gem. I'm just worried they're going to open things up and then I'm going to actually have to go and report on stuff instead of just reading 3 random tweets and basing a whole article on it. I mean, 75% of Canadians are white. Why do they need to be entertained? Did you see this story Rebel just put out? Fuck, they're good.
That might be the funniest joke in the whole fucking routine at the end there.
That end twist, like, there was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There was a lot.
Why do you continuously subject me to this?
There was,
I was gonna bring up Little Mosque on the Prairie before, like when naming other CBC programs, but
before he turned them into terrorists blowing up corner gas, like
yeah,
holy shit. Like the funny thing is he's hit almost like every like racism, Islamophobia, transphobia, like he hit it all in here, and like none of it was funny. But then there was like that end little bit where he says something like, Rebel, what did Rebel put out? They're great or whatever. And then it's like, is he really on the inside trying to, like, just grift on them? I don't understand.
Is that a joke? What's happening?
Because in the context of the bit, it would be at, like, the whole, what it seems like all the bits are, was like, I'm a CBC reporter, so I'm going to say all the things that Ben Bankas and far-right people think that the CBC would say because they're bigots and they project this onto the CBC, right? And then he says something nice about Rebel, but then that's like, in the context of the bit, that would say that, like, the CBC liking Rebel, that's bad. I don't know.
You're thinking too much about this. You're thinking.
No, Ben Bankas is an idiot. There's. Of course, I'm putting more thought into it than Ben Bankas is, because Ben Bankas doesn't put thought into this. He's phoned it in. This is like what? It's like, haha, I'm a CBC employee, so I wear like my belly hanging out with the top. Like, what is this physical comedy? Like, I don't understand.
Oh, short answer is it isn't. So, and also I thought like the end where it's like, oh, Rebel, damn, they're good. The idea that Rebel is good at anything, that's a pretty good joke.
God, the audience. There's an audience for this. This has been viewed. Did you see it? I want you to guess. How many views do you think this has? 9. Oh, yeah. Okay, go for it.
I was gonna say 5 digits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
19,000 times. 19,000 times.
2,000 likes.
And it was released yesterday. 19,000 times.
There's no Dave Chappelle.
And all these comments, what is it we got? He's giving CBC a little more credit than they deserve. Little did we know, Rebel planted a camera at a random CBC desk, and this is actually footage of a CBC employee. Oh my god, these people are so funny. You sure that was a CBC employee and not a Liberal MP? Oh my god.
It's amazing. Like, we think Ben Bankas is a fucking idiot and his comedy is atrocious, but like it resonates with someone, and that is the scarier part, isn't it? That's terrifying.
I mean, it's terrifying on two levels. It's terrifying on the level of what they're saying is bigotry, and so people appealing to it, that's bad. But it also says something about the state of like their brains in terms of like comedic appeal. You know? The fact that anyone could sit there and go, this is enjoyable content. I'm having a hoot. Let's have a hoot at this.
I was just going to say, Jody, that, that Ben appears to have like an endless repository of conservative jokes and bits that they're funny. Like it's almost like a vault of jokes. Almost a Bankas.
What? A joke that's so bad as a Bankas?
No, he just has so many that he keeps stored away in his personal Bankas.
That one did not land. Sorry.
No, I was maybe channeling too much of that there.
Yeah. Bankas has rubbed off a little bit.
I wouldn't try to take that one from Bankas.
Now, when you
one good hit, I'm chasing that.
Yeah. Yes, you did come up with put it in the Bankas. So, and that was delightful. Look, someone else reflected on so last story that Rebel put out, they're good. A remark like that at the CBC headquarters would be like a nuclear firecracker going off. Which is, again, like, in the context of the bit, you would say, like, of course they would never say that. So then, like, what is the implications? But I mean, this person, Richard Plante, he gets what the implication should be, but then, like, doesn't realize that, like, it's just Ben Bankas is not good at joke structure. Jesus. So many comments calling them the CCBC for the Chinese Communist Broadcasting Corporation.
Got him.
Nailed it. Oh, this comment is just Little Mosque on the Prairie. Ha 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 ha. Okay.
Yeah. What a smart person.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Jesus Christ. Well, Canada, you disappoint me yet again. I can't say I expected better, but this is what we get. This is what we get. Speaking of whiteness, you ever break a bottle of on-sale Chardonnay when you want your Friday to go well? Was it like christening a boat? Did you have a boat? Did you drop it on a boat? Did you drop it on your car? Didn't you just fix your car? You know what? We should bring christening cars into style. Like, you know how they, like, you know, you break in a new boat and you smash a champagne glass off the side? You should smash, like, whenever you, like, get a new car, smash a bottle of champagne off the side of it. To welcome it.
That is an excellent idea. I might cheat a little because I've had my car for a bit, but, like, in March 2023, the lease is up, or not the lease, but like I'm done financing it and it's fully mine, and I think at that point I will christen it.
No, I drop on my floor and there's glass everywhere and my car is fine. Well, if there's glass everywhere, I recommend you stop participating in the chat and prevent your roommates from being stabbed in the feet. Unless you want that to happen to your roommates, and I'll leave that up to you. That's on you. Otherwise, it's probably best that you clean up that glass. We're going to be signing off anyways, so. But thank you for joining. I got it cleaned and my roommates are away, but I'm mad. Okay, fair. I'm probably gonna go have a drink after this is done. Anyways, I'm so fucking tired. Listen, I would recommend to the audience, don't have kids going into a global pandemic. Make sure that when the global pandemic is coming, that you were not already parents. It is exhausting. I still love my kids. I'll tell you, so since I always shit on, well, I don't shit on my kids. That even sounds even worse saying it out loud. So,
Yeah, especially in the context of your last podcast.
Jesus. I talk about how they exhaust me, right? So in the context of saying something relatively negative about them, I'll say something positive that I thought was hilarious. I had my son, was playing around with them this morning, and I wrapped my son up in a blanket and was swaddling him like a baby. So he's about 5 years old, so not quite a baby, right? Relatively big, swaddled in a blanket. And I went to my 2-year-old daughter. I was like, the baby wants his bottle. And she's like, okay. So she runs off and she goes, finds like a cup and runs over with the cup and goes to give my son the water. And my son's response to this was to like, jokingly, but like screamed like, ah! And then my daughter's response was to get really close to his face and go, don't be scared, baby.
That's terrifying.
And it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. I never laughed harder in my life. So, I speak negatively sometimes about kids, but every once in a while they'll pump out something as joyous and silly as that, and will fill you with joy until you have to change their diapers or whatever other shit you have to do. So that's my parenting lesson at the end of stream. Campaign poster 30 years from now. Jody shits on his kids. Yeah, don't clip that out of context. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's one of those things where like I didn't put the two together. That as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, oh, that is not pleasant. But yes, I will. What do we do here? Promote the Patreon page. I did submit, so I guess like emotes are pending, so I did submit some of that, so I am affiliate. Emotes will be coming, some other stuff will happen. I'm hopefully going to be making more like introduction music for the waiting time. I have a friend who makes a lot of music, and so he's got a bunch of scrap beats that he threw my way, and so I'm going to splice in some Ezra content to the beats of some kind and have that as the waiting music before stream rather than the just like bare bones beat that's playing there now. And what else do I have coming? Eventually we're going to redo our logo and stuff because I'm not a great artist. I threw this logo together rather quickly, and so I think we're going to have one that like does not have faces on it and is just like an Imperial News, something stylized. I'm in the works on that with some artists that I will pay to do. Talking with Aeronok, who's probably going to do that for me. So you can check out Aeronok stuff as well. Aeronok streams on Twitch as well. But yeah, if you donate to the Patreon, it helps. It'll eventually get us some better equipment and stuff. Some of our mics are getting old and are a bit funky, and hopefully they will work better in the future when we have money to afford new equipment. So anything donate-wise will help. If you have a Twitch Prime, you can donate to our channel if you haven't donated already to someone else's by subscribing to the channel. And I will appreciate it. Anything helps. I will have to message Aeronok as well. Yes, Aeronok is awesome, and but always pay for your artwork, people. Always pay. Unless your buddy has random scrap beats. Those you get for free. And with that, have a good night. If you want to say goodbye, I think we're going to raid Clara.
Bye.
Let's do
goodbye.
Elron? Oh god, I'm going to sneeze.
What?
Oh shit! I felt that one coming. I hope your ears didn't explode. Oh, that was bad. Say goodbye to the peoples, to your fans.
It is not goodbye. It is till we see you next time.
Jesus Christ. Why don't you just make out with my audience? What do you...
If I had their consent.
Nice. And with that, we are going to raid my friend Clara, or as she goes by on Twitch, Caffles. So have fun and enjoy yourself out there. Be good. Be good to others. Bye-bye. Bye.